Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good day to everyone. So the topic that has been trusted on me is on human resource management, employee selection. Also I think before we start, I think it's a good idea for me to mention that for those who are working, so you will have your own HR departments in your respective organization. So in this HR department, so usually you will have the recruitment and selection unit responsible for the advertisement of job vacancies as well as filling up all those vacancies. And then the HR department will also have the compensation and benefits unit, so responsible for employee salary and the benefits package for the employees. And then the next unit under the HR department, we will usually have the training department, okay, responsible for in-house training or any suggestion of training that can be given to employees. Okay, the next function would be performance appraisal unit, okay, responsible for managing the performance evaluations of employees. And usually the HR department will also have its own what we call ER unit, employee relations unit, responsible for any complaints or dispute between the employee and the company. So in general, these are the functions that we usually find, okay, in the HR department. Okay, so for today we are going to focus only on the employee selection. So let us see first, okay, what do I plan for our learning for today. All right, okay, so we are going to learn about some first and the process of employee selection in general, and then we're also going to learn about some example of common employment tests and common types of interviews, okay, normally being done during the employee selection process. And towards the end, we are going to learn about some evidence from the Quran when it comes to what kind of people to hire, and when it comes to the emphasis on being fair, okay, during the selection process. Okay. So first of all, okay, so what is employee selection? In general, this refers to the process of choosing individuals or candidates who are qualified to fill job openings. So when there is a vacant position in organization, so companies can either use a job search website such as JobStreet, okay, to advertise the position, and they can filter, okay, from such website, or a company may also use their own website. For example, like for IUM, so if you click the career word, okay, or the job opportunities word on the website, so it will bring you to this online recruitment website. So you can see what are the existing positions, and then there are buttons here and there for you to click if you wish to apply for some of the positions. So these are the in general how companies advertise job openings in the organization. Okay. Okay, so I think it's a good idea as well for us to learn first what is the objective or the goal of selection. So basically to maximize what we call hits. So hits here refers to accurate prediction. So for HR, for recruiters, okay, for example, we would like to know whether the candidate that we hire for the company is a good match in terms of whether the candidate can actually do the job or not. Okay, so that's why, okay, when it comes to if you look at this chart over here, so we have here the job performance axis, where this one we are referring to whether, okay, the hired candidate can actually do the work or not. Okay, so in terms of low or high, in terms of the job performance. And then here you have the predicted success, okay, from low to high. So this predicted success, how do we know? We can know from a number of employment tests as well as the interviews. So from the interviews and from the test, so should indicate, okay, to us whether this candidate is a good is qualified enough, okay, is good enough for the position or not. Okay, so let's say just now, okay, this is the key that we would like, okay, that we are most interested in when it comes to selection, is whether the candidate that we hire is really what we are looking for. Okay, so that means based on the employment test, based on the interviews, so it should give us an idea, okay, if this person will be hired by the company, so will this person be able to do the work or not. So if indeed, okay, based on the test, that's on the interviews, if after we hire the candidate and they can really do the work, so that means it was an accurate prediction done by the HR team. okay, before this person was hired. Okay, so not only that we would like to accurately predict whether a person are going to be successful on the job, we also would like to predict accurately if the person actually not going to be able to do the job. So that means, okay, the usage of the employment test, the usage of the interviews, okay, means should help us to select candidates who are actually, if we hire, they are not going to be able to do the work. Okay, so that means these are the two important hits, okay, that the company would like to be able to do well. So in terms of predicting whether a person can really do the work or a person actually cannot do the work. Okay, so apart from this hit, okay, let's say we talk about the inaccurate prediction. So what if a company happen to mispredict the possibility whether a candidate can perform or not in the job. So let's say we take the first one, okay, the first miss, inaccurate prediction in terms of, okay, the candidate will have succeeded on the job. So the example here is that let's say we have two company A and company B. If let's say company A through the some employment test to some of the interviews, so they feel that these candidates are not going to be suitable for the job. So they okay, so that means the candidate was informed as let's say failed, okay, or I mean the company informed that okay, we are not able to proceed further with your application. So let's say the same candidate, okay, went to company B, and it turns out that at company B the candidate did better, okay, in the interviews and in the employment test. So it seems that in company B the candidate was able to get a job there. So in terms of the company A just now, it's a little bit of a loss because the candidate would have been able to be hired. That means the candidate actually has the potential, but somehow it was calculated, okay, or whatnot at company A. So that means company A lost this talent to company B. Okay, so that's an example of inaccurate prediction. Okay, another example, okay, of inaccurate prediction is that let's say in a company a candidate came, okay, for all the tests and for all the interviews, and somehow the candidate was seen to be or appear to be very promising for the position, but after hiring this candidate, it turns out that this candidate actually cannot do the work. Okay, so between the two myths over here, between these two inaccurate prediction, this inaccurate prediction, okay, this one in blue color, is going to cost the employee a lot more because apart from losing a talent, it's going to be much more harder to the company if they happen to hire the incorrect person for the position. So that means if let's say the candidate that has been hired was actually not able to do the work, okay, this will cause pressure to the department because other colleagues have to cover his or her job because of the incompetencies. So it's going to be much more, I mean, it's going to cause much more headache, okay, to the company if they are the one who made the wrong decision in hiring the wrong candidate, because as a company you cannot simply terminate a candidate when it was you who actually happened to hire the wrong person. So that's why, okay, this kind of incorrect prediction is going to be much more costly to the company. So this is what the company would want to avoid. All right. Okay, let's see further. Okay, so this is the common step in general, okay, how companies do the selection process. So all the activities that you see here, from submission of resume and application form, okay, to initial screening, pre-employment test, interviews, reference and background checks, okay, medical examination or drug test, and to hiring decision. So all these activities, it can differ from company to companies. It can also differ even if in the same company. This process might also differ according to different positions. Okay, so later on, okay, we are going to learn about each of these activities here. So just to say that when it comes to these hiring decisions, okay, when it comes to all these selection activities, so candidate can be rejected at any time. Okay, I mean it doesn't have to always be at the initial screening. So candidate can be rejected at any activities, at any step in the selection process. Okay, let's learn. Okay, some of the steps in the selection process. Okay, so let us talk about initial screening. Okay, so before an applicant is being interviewed. So why do we do screening? Because we don't want to waste time inviting candidates who are not qualified for the position to come for interview. So for example, so let's say when we open for a position, let's say when the company open for a position that requires, let's say, degree level as the academic qualification. So those with degree level and below, we will put them aside. So that is one way to do the screening. Okay, so so when it comes to okay, this indicate the screening method. So a company can filter from, let's say if they are using a job website, for example, so they can filter. So in terms of the qualification, okay, of the candidate, they can also filter in terms of, okay, those with experience and those without experience. Okay, and then they can also filter, for example, in terms of what are the for instance, certain certificate that candidate should have for certain positions. Okay, so in terms of the screening methods, okay, so this, so that means recruiters can screen from cover letters, okay, can screen from resumes, application form. Let's say, for example, if the job is for a fresh graduate, so a recruiter might filter in terms of the CGPA of the of the candidates. So, for example, like let's say if you talk about Malaysians, for example, it is quite common for fresh graduates. So when we are filtering their resumes or their application form, so we are going to look, for example, we are going to keep, okay, the resumes of those with 3.0 and above, okay, for the CGPA. So those with lesser than 3.0, so we might put them aside, or sadly we might have to shred, okay, if the application form, if we cannot find any suitable position for such low CGPAs. Okay, so that is one way to do the screening. Another way that company do initial screening is by doing a phone call. Okay, phone screening where the recruiters, okay, will give a call to some candidates, and then during the phone call, okay, let's say we introduce ourselves, we are calling from ABC company. This is regarding your application for certain position. So during this phone screening, what we do is that companies are actually assessing whether the candidate can actually converse in English or not. So, for example, in my previous company, a manufacturing company, so since we are here, you can say an English-speaking company, so we need to have candidates who can speak conversely, okay, or maintain good conversation during interview. So, during the phone screening, if let's say we have any candidates who prefer to talk in bahasa, for example, or when we ask them some questions, just initial questions such as what is your score for SPM, what is your score in certain exam, for example, and if let's say they struggle to answer, so this kind of candidate is not going to be helpful if we actually like schedule them for interview, because they are not able to maintain the proper English. They are not conversant enough, okay, to be for us to have interviews with them. So that's how we do phone screening. So just to know whether the candidate, before we call them for interviews, will they be able to converse properly in interviews. Okay, so apart from screening, companies might also do some internet checks. So we might just randomly based on your name. Okay, for example, let's say we might search in some social media platforms. Okay, just to see whether you happen to post something controversial. Okay, in terms of what you have in social media. And then these days, okay, some companies also might ask candidates to email, okay, to the company the video resumes where the candidate are being asked to talk about themselves and why they are interested with the position. And the video can be like, let's say, less than 5 minutes video. So based on the video resume, so company can decide, okay, whether it's going to be worthwhile to invite this candidate to come over for interviews or not. Okay. So this is all example of the screening methods. Okay, let's see next. Okay, so now we are going to talk about the pre-employment test. So as I mentioned before, so different companies might have different tests, and different position, okay, will also require different tests. Okay, so basically the objective of the test is to gauge the candidate's knowledge. Okay, knowledge here refers to academic qualification. Okay, the skills here refers to certain certificates that the candidate should have for certain position. Okay, their abilities, and also some other characteristic, whether in terms of are they going to be able to work on long hours, or are they going to be able to work on weekend or not, do they have own transport for certain positions. So these are among what we call the KSAOs, the knowledge, skill, abilities, and other characteristics that the candidate have, and we can determine based on this whether they are going to be suitable for the positions or not. Okay, so the test just now may vary across companies and types of job. Okay, some position might have a number of different pre-employment tests as part of the selection process. So, for example, like a highly demanding position, or let's say a highly risky position. So we must make sure that the candidate like have sound experience with regard to their job. Okay, they must be also be physically fit, they must also be mentally fit. Okay, so these are so for such as astronaut, or those who are working in oil and gas company at the oil rigs, okay, in the middle of the ocean. So they have to be physically fit, because in case if something happen to them, or if their health become worsen, they should know that they're not going to get the immediate medical attention should they have any underlying health condition. Okay, let's see further. Okay, so these are some of the example of employment test. So these are the common one would be, let's say we talk about a job knowledge test. Okay, a type of achievement test designed to measure understanding or knowledge about a job. So for example, let's say in my previous company, a manufacturing company, let's say for the post of electrical technician, we will give before the candidate is interviewed, we will give one incomplete electrical circuit for the technician to fill up. So that means they're supposed to complete the electrical circuit drawing in terms of what need to be drawn. Okay, so that the lights will turn on. So based on this test, okay, so we can have an idea where how experienced, or what are the basic knowledge that the technician should have before we actually proceed to interview. So some companies might ask you to go for interview first, and then you need to do some tests afterwards. So it depends on the position and the company. Okay, the next type, work sample test. Okay, require candidate to perform tasks that are part of the job. So that means the candidates, okay, when they come for the interviews, okay, so they might be given an actual they have to do an actual task that they are going to do in their actual job later on. So let's say, for example, they say for a programmer position, so they might be given let's say a coding, and then see whether they can identify any errors in the coding, or if let's say they are being asked to please execute a simple function by using this programming language. So that might be the example of work sample test for programmer, or for educators, for teachers or lecturers or tutors. So it's going to be common, for this position that you need to do mock teaching. I mean the potential lecturers should do mock teaching, so that the assessors or the interviewers can see, whether this candidate can actually teach, or can actually lecture during this mock teaching. So the interviewers might also see if there's any questions coming from the students, or how good the potential or the candidate for lecturing answer the questions or not. Okay. Okay, next, cognitive ability test. This one is actually referring to IQ test. Okay, so this is the example of test that might be, that can be given to almost all kind of position. Okay, so in this IQ test, so the candidate are going to be tested in terms of knowledge about certain English words, verbal ability, and then their ability with regards to some mathematical functions, as well as reasoning ability, and so on. So we're going to look at the example of this. What is the example of the IQ test? And then, some companies, might also ask candidate to fill up, or to do some personality test to see whether their characteristic or the candidate's personality, is it going to be suitable or not with the position that they are going to do. So, for example, if let's say the position, they say in the marketing department requires the marketers or the marketing executive to approach candidate, to approach client or to approach customers. So those with who score a bit high on extraversion or being extrovert might be more suitable, for the position. So how do they know whether you are an extrovert or an introvert? So this can be done, for example, through some free personality tests, such as the 16 personality test. Okay, so it's not entirely, in terms of the accuracy, it is quite good, at least to have some idea, in terms of a candidate's personality. Okay. And then next, physical ability test. So basically, this one is about fitness test. So for some job, that are physically demanding, such as the job of the firefighters, police officers, military personnel, or even those professional football players. So the example of the fitness test, for employment can be how many, for example, like how many sit-ups can you do, for certain amount of time, how many push-ups, and then how long does it take for you to do a 1.5 kilometer run. So these are the example of physical ability test for this kind of positions. Okay. Okay, so this is the example of the IQ test or the cognitive ability test just now. So we have some questions that assess a candidate's verbal English, in terms of when it comes to how conversant they are in terms of the English words, and then some questions to assess the candidate's ability to count and some basic knowledge with regard to mathematics. We also have some reasoning question as well as mechanical knowledge question. So for example, if we look at this reasoning question, what is to boat as snow is to ski. So when I teach to my students in my class, so I will ask them to elaborate why the answer for this reasoning question is C. Why the answer is water is to boat as snow is to ski, and why the answer is not sail is to boat. Because for this question, so we're actually looking at what is needed by the object to glide on. So that's why the answer is water is to boat. So boat needs the water to glide on, just like how ski need the snow to glide on. So that's why the answer is not sail. That's why the answer is not A. So just in terms of example of a reasoning question in an IQ test. Okay, now we come to the part about the types of interviews. So in general, these are the examples. So let's say we take a look at the first one, the non-directive interview. So basically, for this kind of interview, this can be the interview. This can be the questions that are being asked. During the let's say the warming up of the interview. So the candidate might be asked, please introduce yourself or please tell us about yourself. So why it is called non-directive? Because the candidate is supposed to talk on and on until the interviewer interfere or ask further question based on the response of the candidate, just not about the question about tell us about yourself. That's why it is called non-directive, because the candidate is supposed to talk on and on, until the interviewer pick some question to ask further based on the candidate response just now. Okay, next structured interview. This one is about standardized questions, with an established set of answers. So this can be standard question that can be asked across, different kind of jobs. So for example, like what makes the candidate interested with the company, or what makes the candidate interested with the position. What is the vision and mission of the company? So this is the example of standard question, that can be used across different profession, across different positions in the company. Okay. Okay, now let's learn about situational interview. So, what does it mean by situational interview? Is that it's a hypothetical incident. Okay, that means it's a scenario that is yet to happen in the position but have the probability to happen. So, for example, the question can goes like this. Okay, what if or imagine you have to deal with a difficult client? How will you handle such situation? So this one is meant to test, okay, candidates' ability to react, okay. I mean, like for such questions, so what if something happen? How will you manage that situation? Okay, so that is for situational interview. Okay, for BDI, behavioral descriptive interview, we're talking about assessing a candidate's like experience, because this question is going to be based on something that the candidate has experienced before in the past. Okay, so we might be asking questions such as based on your experience, or we can also say back then. Okay, how do you handle a system error such as this? Let's say this is the question for programmer's position. Okay, so that means, okay, between situational and behavioral description interview. Situational is something that is yet to happen, hypothetical. Okay, but behavior description interview refer to something that has happened in the past. Okay, or something that this candidate might have experienced in the past, and what did they do, okay, back then when they encounter, okay, or in that position. Okay. Okay, next, okay, sequential interview. A candidate is interviewed by multiple people. So this can happen, let's say, in a career fair. So let's say a candidate, okay, first, had a session with the recruiters. If this candidate pass, okay, we will move on to the next cubicle. So he might be assessed by some, managers, okay, from the respective departments with the vacancy. And if this person pass, okay, so this person can be moved to the next manager. So this is so it's about you are being interviewed one by one. Okay, I mean one after another. So that means if you pass the preliminary interviews, then you can go to the next interviews and so on. And then, okay, panel interview. So this one is about, okay, having a row of interviewers in front of you, okay, asking you some questions. So when it comes to interviews, okay, I also like to highlight that, okay, usually companies might take up until 3 or 4 interviews, okay, for positions. So this panel interview is usually going to be maybe toward the end, okay, of the selection process, where you might be interviewed by some representative from, okay, the top management, and also some key people from your department, okay, to see whether you are the suitable candidate, okay, for the position, whether you are going to be suitable, okay, with the company even. All right. Okay, reference and background checking. So after the interviews, after the test, okay, so if the candidate pass, okay, all the tests and seems to be good during the interviews, so the company will also do a checking in terms of, they might call, okay, your previous HR, okay, your previous company, to know how were you, okay, how was the candidate in the previous company, is there any complaint, is there any issues, okay. So just because why company do this, because when it comes to position, so no company would like to hire troublemakers. So that's why it's going to be important for the HR, okay, to call the HR in the candidate previous company, just to know, okay, if there's anything to worry about, okay, before proceeding to hiring. Okay, so here there's a term, okay, called negligent hiring. So what I mean by negligent hiring is the failure of a company to discover or to properly inspect, to properly do investigation before they proceed to hiring. So let's say, for example, okay, I put the example here, okay, checking for criminal records, okay, for warehouse operator. Okay, so back then in my previous company, so as my previous company, we have a very large warehouse, and in our warehouse, we store all of the finished product of the company. So let's say we take something such as external hard disk. So when it comes to having employees in the warehouse, we cannot have people with key criminal record, because they might, okay, smuggle, okay, some of the device and, okay, sell it outside. Okay, that's why, okay, for such position where the employees are the one who manage the inventory list, they are the one who count how many stocks are there, they are the one who count how many things are being shipped. So we cannot have people with some criminal background, okay, to work in such environment, okay, where the finished good of the companies are ready, okay, to be shipped. So what we do, for example, okay, to prevent illegal hiring is that for this position, warehouse operator, so after the candidate has passed the test, the interviews and so on, okay, so when we do the background checking, so the IC number, identification number of this candidate, we are going to run it against the police database to check whether this person has any criminal background or not. So those are the example. That means for this kind of position only that will do such background check, okay, against the police database. Okay, but for most position we don't do that. So it's just that for this kind of position we have to do it. Okay, because we are talking about employees who are working with the things. Okay, we're working with the products that already can be sold. So because things such as small as external hard disk. Okay, people can just smuggle in their own lab coats. Okay, they can. They might not report. Okay, accordingly. Okay, in terms of the stock in the warehouse. So that's why we cannot afford. Okay, to have this issue. So that's why we must really check, okay, their IC, okay, to see any issues with suspicion or not. Okay, medical examination and drug test. So usually this type, okay, to ask employees to go for medical examination. So company will usually ask, okay, candidate to go for this medical examination if the company is, okay, positive on hiring the candidate. So because usually, okay, after the you will go to clinics, okay, for medical examination, and then later on when you join the company will reimburse, okay, the cost for the medical examination just now. So among the things, okay, so in general, medical examination meant for employment can include, okay, the chest X-ray, okay, hemoglobin test, okay, blood sugar test, okay, blood count test, urine test, and so on. Next, okay, so another thing, okay, so some companies might also do drug tests, okay, as well as alcohol intoxication tests for certain job that requires employees to work very long hours, okay, such as, let's say, professional lorry drivers, for example, or if, let's say, in your job you have to operate heavy machine, so the company need to know, okay, is it you yourself who have the stamina, okay, who, are able to work long hours, or actually you can do that because you are taking some drugs or some substance. So the company need to do that, okay? Need to test that before they proceed to hiring you. So if let's say any candidate refuse to take the alcohol test or the drug test, so it's like what we're trying to say is that, okay, if the candidate has not done anything wrong, has not take any drug or any kind of alcohol, so they should not worry, okay, if they're being asked to go for such tests. So that's what it means by, okay, a candidate may refuse to take a drug test, but that is tantamount to turning down. So it's like if you don't want to take the test, so that means actually you are turning down the job offer. Okay, something like that in terms of what it indicates. All right. Okay, now let's learn about, okay, some evidence from the Quran. Okay, for us when we are discussing this employee selection from Islamic perspective. So let's say in terms of what kind of people to hire. So in Surah Al-Qasas verse 25 to 26. So this one is actually about. The context of this ayah is saying that. Is referring to Prophet Moses. Okay, in the situation where he is on the run. Okay, a group of people is trying to harm him in a city, so he is fleeing, okay, he is running from those people. So while he was on the run, he need to have some means to support himself, in terms of he need to have some kind of a job, okay, for him, okay, to live, okay, have the means to have some food and so on. So he happened to approach two women, okay, and then somehow he happened to help these two women to bring the water for their animal. So these two women, okay, so asked him, okay, to come over to their father, okay. So when Prophet Musa come to, okay, the father of these two women, so the old man said, "Have no fear, you are now safe from the wrongdoing people." So while they are having this conversation, so one of these two women, okay, the daughters of this old man says, "Okay, oh my dear father, hire him." a strong, trustworthy person is definitely the best to hire. So you can see here, okay. So when it comes to guidelines, okay, from Quran, so the best people to hire is those who are strong. Strong here means you have the competence, the ability to do the job. Okay, so this can be in terms of your academic qualification, in terms of certificates, in terms of job experience that you have, and then okay, strong meaning competence. Okay, and at the same time trustworthy, people that can be trusted. Okay, people that have the integrity at work. So these are the example of the kind of people that should be hired according to the Quran. Okay, next. Okay, so apart from the two characteristic just now, so Quran also says that we should hire people with confidence, and they can not only have the confidence but also demonstrated their confidence, okay, in terms of their competency. So for example, this verse from Surah Yusuf. Okay, so this part from verse 54 until 55 is about the time when the ruler, okay, the in a Prophet Yusuf area. So the king, okay, was searching, okay, for one of his minister. So okay, some of the men, okay, mention about Prophet Yusuf and his ability to interpret dreams. Okay, so the king said, okay, bring him to me. I will employ him exclusively in my service. And when Prophet Yusuf spoke to him, the king said, today you are highly esteemed and fully trusted by us. Okay, so when Prophet Yusuf, okay, was suggested, okay, to take the position, so he mentioned, put me in charge of the storehouse of the land. I am to be reliable, and so that means here. So what we are trying to say here is that, okay, if you have the competency, you should voice it out. You should demonstrate that you have the ability, so that people know, okay, that they are hiring the correct person for the position. So this is what it means by those with the confidence and also demonstrate their confidence, okay, should be hired, okay, for the position. Okay, now, okay, let's talk about, just now we're talking about the characteristic of good people to be hired. Now, what about the hiring process itself? Okay, so the hiring process, okay, should be free from any favoritism or nepotism. For example, like in Surah Al-Ma'idah, verse 8 over here. So, okay, all believers stand firm for Allah and bear true testimony. Do not let the hatred of people, okay, become the reason for injustice. So here, what I mean by this ayah is that, so do not let the hatred here can be, referring to for the recruiters, for the HR people. So they cannot have, let's say, any stereotyping, any personal bias to certain race only during hiring. So that I mean, any race, okay, anybody, should be given equal chances when it comes to the employment test, when it comes to the interviews, and so on. Okay, so all these personal bias, discrimination, and stereotyping must be avoided during the selection process on the candidates. Okay, number two, of course, okay, Islam always uphold, we have to always be fair to others. Okay, so so that means, okay, during the interviews, during the employment test, okay, so candidates should be, treated with justice and fairness. Okay, so okay, indeed, Allah commands you to return trust to the rightful owners. Okay, and we judge people, you must judge with fairness. So this fairness here refers to the candidates. Okay, regardless of their race, regardless of their background and so on. So they should be given the equal chance. In terms of the test and the interviews, should be administered in a fair and just manner. Okay, so basically, that's all for my presentation. So to the end here, I purposely show this picture because just now, when we talk about being fair during the selection process, it does not mean that giving one, same, let's say, test for different kind of position. Okay, let's say we talk about being fair over here. So let's say with regard to the questions about the IQ test, for example. So or maybe a standard IQ test can be given to all positions, but when it comes to the test that has to do more about working in terms of experience, in terms of certification and so on. So every test should be done or should be administered according to the type of the position. So that means you cannot have one same question for all different occupation. So that's what it means by being fair over here. All right. So, okay, I think that's all. Okay, for my presentation. Okay, do we have any questions from the audience?